Well, joining me is a man right now who is one of the hottest heavyweights on the planet and a guy that gets his shot at becoming a two-time world heavyweight champion, Joseph Parker, all the way over in Samoa. You are going to fight on one of the biggest cards of the year in February against Daniel Dubois, the IBF world champion. How are you feeling right now, mate? Because I have to wonder if you ever thought this chance was going to come.
How am I feeling? I am feeling great. I've had the chance to fight for the championship of the world when I was 24 years old in 2016.
Yeah.
And as a fighter, the dream is to fight for the championship of the world. And I've done that once, but to get the second opportunity to do it again, I feel like this is going to be different because I'm a lot more mature as a fighter, as a person, as a father. The motivation is different. I'm more disciplined and I'm hungry. I'm hungry to be two-time world champion, and that's a goal of mine. So I got the opportunity now. I'm going to take it with both hands. I got a big challenge in front of me. Daniel Dubois, big power hitter, throws a lot of combinations. He's got a good engine. And we saw what he done with Anthony Joshua, Philip Hergovich, big Baby Miller. So I know this is a tough challenge, but I'm ready for it. I want to fight the best in the world, and he is one of the best in the world. So it's all on. It's all on.
I'm going to get to Daniel in a minute, but like Joe, I say this respectfully. There was, you know, like you mentioned when you won the world title. I think you were 24 against Andy Ruiz. I think it's 7 years ago that you defended, that you tried to unify the division against Joshua. And then I think a lot of us wondered what the next stage of your career was going to look like, and if you were ever going to be able to get back into this position. And the fighter that you've become since working with Andy Lee, beating guys like Deontay Wilder, Zhang, and probably these guys were not guys that you're expected to beat. And you've beat them convincingly. And I think that we're seeing the best of you. You know, wins over like Chisora twice, and you've been in there with everybody now. And like, how have you revamped your career in the way you have?
You know what, the most, like you mentioned, Andy Lee, the link up of Andy Lee was a great link up where he's a technician and he's a teacher. And like, before I linked up with Andy, Tyson did say to me, he's the one that put me on to Andy, and he said to me, a lot of trainers out there are great pad holders, but there are only a few of them that are teachers. So Andy has always been a great piece of the puzzle. The only thing that was missing, though, was George Lockhart, and he's come into play, and he does the strength conditioning, he does the nutrition, he cooks for me, and he does the recovery. So when you have Andy Lee, who's the master at boxing, and you have George, who looks after everything else, you have myself, we're all in sync and we work very well together. I feel like we are the best team in the world, and we've seen the jumps that we've made in the last year and a half just because we've gotten everything right. And we're still learning, like along the way, we're still learning about the body, about the food that it can handle and it can't handle, about the timings of eating, about the recovery. Like this, you're never going to stop learning. And I feel like the last year and a half, I've learned so much, but there's still a lot more to learn and a lot more growth to come.
Well, let's talk Daniel Dubois. The way he was able to beat down, I mean, a vicious beat down of Anthony Joshua. He dropped him 4 times, knocked him out in the 5th round. And I think we've all always known that it's possible there with Daniel, but the way he put it all together, like this is a guy that we all know is a devastating puncher, 22 wins, 21 of them inside the distance. He carries his power late in fights. He stopped guys, you know, in the 10th rounds as well. When you watched that fight against Anthony Joshua, were you surprised that Dubois looked as good as he did?
You know what? I was very surprised. I was there in person, and you know, Daniel Dubois for the big Baby Miller fight, I sort of questioned if he had enough to win that fight. Then I even questioned him in the Hergovich fight, and then I thought Joshua was going to do the job, but I've been wrong every single time with Daniel Dubois. I think with the fights that he's had leading up to the Joshua fight, he's growing in confidence, he's growing in his ability, he's trusting what he's doing in the ring. And I feel like the team that he has now is a team that he works very well with, and they all gel together. So the Joshua fight, I think, was a shock for a lot of people, but it wasn't a shock for Dubois because leading into the fight, he said, I am ready. This is my chance. Let's get it on, you know? So when you have a fight like that who's full of confidence, coming into the fight with myself, he's up here right now. From that win with Joshua, he's up here right now. So, you know, it can be a great thing for him, confidence-wise, but it can also, he might be reading in too much in his own work and what he's done. So we're going to find out soon where he's really at in terms of the confidence and his ability and his trust in himself.
Are you surprised he's defending against you, Joe? Because I sure am. I think you're the toughest defence out there for him.
I feel like with the Saudis being involved and with Spencer Brown and David Higgins, Andy Lee, and the team, I think they've all come together to put on the best fights they can. And Daniel Dubois hasn't taken. I feel like I'm a good challenge for him, a great challenge fight for him, and it's a voluntary fight. So, respect to him and credit to him for taking this fight because it's going to be a good, tough fight against two top heavyweights.
Do you feel like, Joe, like if you guys stand in there and trade, like I think you've really developed as a puncher later on in your career, like the way you've been able to go after Deontay Wilder in particular and Zhang as well. How do you see this fight playing out? Because like probably not the smartest idea to stand there and trade with a guy like Dubois, but I also feel like you're at a point in your career where you can fight in a lot of different ways.
You know what? Since it's interesting because the last fight with Zhang, I was 112 kgs, and now I'm 100. Now I'm 123 kgs.
Wow!
And I put on some size, and hopefully it's all muscle. Hopefully
it looks like it is.
A lot of fat to it. But the reason that we put us on because we thought we were having a rematch with Zhang, and the difference with Zhang and myself was the weight. In terms of speed, I was faster. In terms of endurance, I was better movement. But the weight, so we put on a bit of muscle. Like when I say we work together it's a lot of eating, force feeding, and a lot of running, a lot of weights, but I feel like we've done it in the right way. Going into this fight with Dubois, though, I am going to trim down. I'm going to trim right down, and I'm going to be, probably 115, 116, 117, but shredded because in front of me is a guy I think he's just really hungry to show that he belongs at the top and that this title wasn't really just a fluke.
Yeah.
And that he actually deserved it and won it in the right way.
But by the time you get in there, it's going to be 11 months since you last fought. Any concerns about going into a world title fight with 11 months of inactivity?
Yeah, a lot of people say inactivity plays a big part in a fighter's career, and I'm sure it does. But when you're a fighter who doesn't train and who's not living the life, but also just partying, eating whatever you want, then maybe it can affect you, and you're not really in the gym putting in work. But I felt like we've been putting in work, and I feel like I'm faster. I got better endurance. I'm stronger. I'm punching with more power. So everything's been ticked off. Only time will tell if being out of the ring this long will create any ring rust. But I feel like it hasn't.
I have to ask you this: if you can capture the IBF belt, one of your good mates, Tyson Fury, well, before that, is going to try and unify the division again in that rematch against Alexander Usyk. First of all, who do you think wins the rematch? And I'll get to the second question after.
You know what? Usyk coming into this fight is going to have, the full of confidence for being, he was the unified, undisputed champion of the world. I've been talking to Tyson, and I feel like he's adjusted a few things in camp, kept the same team, but when someone's mindset changes, it changes a lot of things, So I feel like going into this fight, my thoughts and my opinion is that Tyson will win. It'll be a tough fight because Usyk is one hell of a fighter, technician, the movement, the angles that he punches from. But I feel like with Tyson, because the mindset change and the way he's approached this fight, I feel like he's going to win on points.
So it begs the question, Joe. I know you and Tyson are good mates and you spend a lot of time together. If Tyson wins and you win, the obvious next fight is the fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world and the chance to become one of the greatest, most decorated fighters of all time, certainly without peer in New Zealand. Is that a fight you'd be prepared to take against Tyson?
I've always said I never want to fight Tyson. He's like a brother to me, and he's done so much for me in my career. But then again, I'll say never say never. I want to be the best in the world. I want to be the undisputed unified champion of the world. And if that's what it takes, we can sit down and have a brotherly talk and say, hey, man, how you doing? And listen, you never know. We can, you just never know what's going to happen in the sport of boxing. Things happen that you don't really expect.
I have to imagine, like when we go back to, 8 years ago when you become a world champion for the first time, your life's so different now. You've got 5 beautiful kids, 4 girls and a boy. You're a different man. You've grown so much in the sport. What's motivating you at this point? Is it legacy? I mean, you're a prize fighter, so part of it's got to be money. But what is it?
I love boxing, and I love what I do now more than I ever have before. More than more than when I was champion of the world, more than I was trying to unify, because at this moment, I'm doing everything right. At this moment, I appreciate the position I'm in. At this moment, I understand what I'm doing each and every day. There's a program, there's a schedule, and there's purpose. There's purpose behind everything I do in terms of training and preparing for a fight. And now I'm doing it more so for myself than for anyone else. Myself, my wife and kids. Not doing it for my dad now, who I did it for the first time. My coach, Kevin Barry, at the time, doing it for other people. Now I'm doing it for me. I know what I can achieve. I know how good I can be if I put in the work and if I focus and if I go out there and perform to my best.
You're over in Samoa now, and you are about to make a gigantic sacrifice. You're going to leave your wife and children behind for 10 weeks and go and train with Andy Lee and get ready for this fight. When you hear the words "and you," after all that you've sacrificed and all that you've been through over the last 8 years to become a two-time world champion, how do you think you'll feel?
I feel like it'll be a special, beautiful feeling. I just feel like, you know, when you think about all the sacrifice, when you think about all the hard work that not just me, there's other fighters go for the same thing. But when you think about your own journey of how you got there, it's just everything comes together, and it'll be just one big emotional, not emotional, but just be ecstatic and just be happy and be over the moon. And you can just say, you know what, I've ticked it off and I've become two-time world champion. And it'll be an amazing feeling. I think the celebrations will be all the way home. And it'll be great. It'll be great to win that belt and get home and just see the family at the airport waiting for you to welcome you back with open arms.
Joe, do you think you've surprised the boxing world? Like, do you think, you know, I've heard you say in the past that people didn't think you were supposed to win against Wilder or Zhang. Do you think people are surprised to see you back in this position?
Very surprised. And because when you have a fight like the fight I had with Joe Joyce, and firstly, I shouldn't have fought that fight, being in the health and wasn't really on point at the time. But you don't make excuses. And you know, Joe Joyce was the better man. But I always knew that this wasn't my best, and this isn't how it's supposed to end. And I never doubted myself. I always believed in myself. So I think to come back from that to fighting Django, then fighting Simon Keane, then Wilder, then Zhang, no one really expected it, and we weren't supposed to win. I wasn't supposed to win, but I was able to, you know, dig deep, and the belief. I always say, well, when you believe in yourself that much, you will take any fight, and you know you can beat anyone. So to beat these top guys like Zhang and Wilder, it wasn't expected. So that's the reason why, you know, we're up at this position we're in, and also a lot of people are back supporting us now. A lot of people thought we're down and out, but they're back now, and grateful to have the support of everyone who's backing us to take care of business.
Well, mate, I know Australians have always felt like you're one of ours. We're pretty good at adopting Kiwis, mate, but I'm just so thrilled to see you back in this position. I know you'll do us all proud, and mate, I really look forward to talking to you throughout the build-up, and hopefully catching up over the next couple of weeks while you're back in camp with Andy. And mate, just go and enjoy it, because you've certainly earned it the hard way.
Aussie. Oi, let's go.